Hi, it's Sandy Wiley. Welcome to my mental health channel, 50 Shades of Black and White, where I try to wipe away the stigma of mental illness. I talk about my own mental illness, borderline personality disorder. I cover a broad area of a lot of topics, a lot of personality disorders, narcissism, bipolar, schizophrenia, post-traumatic stress disorder, panic attacks, and many, many other things. But I cover them as a patient. I've been a patient for almost 20 years, and I come on with my personal experiences and thoughts and opinions as a patient. I am not a licensed therapist. I do not have a degree in psychology. I just want to make that very clear. So I'm only, talking from a patient point of view. I'm 58 years old, and I've had a lot of experience with myself and my family with mental illness. If you like what you see, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Everyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome to comment. I love comments. I wish you all a comment. Except everyone needs to be kind in the comments. We can all disagree. Some people can say that narcissism can't be cured. Other people can say, yes, it can be. Some people can say that therapists are wonderful and help. Other people can say that they're terrible and they only hurt people and they only want money. Both, it's fine. Whatever you think is fine, as long as you show respect and kindness, okay? Don't put someone down because they have a different opinion than you. I'm only telling you my opinions. I'm not telling you what to do with your life, ever. I don't want anyone to tell me what to do with my life, so I expect the same in return. Today we're going to talk about covert narcissistic abuse. Now, the last video I did was about my narcissistic mother and my childhood abuse. But this is going to go a little bit deeper than the physical abuse. This is covert narcissistic abuse. These people need to feel like they're God. They're omnipotent. They think they're it. Like my mother thought she's the most wonderful woman in the world. But their harm shows up in ways that some people, are unconscious of. Even as adults, if you were raised by a narcissistic parent, you might not even be aware how it affects you. Even as an adult, all these years later, it affects you in your decisions in everyday life. It affects on what type of partner do you pick out. Do you pick out romantic partners who are narcissistic, who are abusive? See, you might not even be aware that you're doing it because you were severely abused. But the abuse wasn't in a black eye or a welt or a scratch. The abuse was a little bit more insidious, okay, in the way that they made you feel. And that's what I want to talk about in today's video. Now, I grew up thinking I couldn't do anything. I was raised like that, even by my father. My father and mother told me never to drive a car. One time, my father saw me, I was, behind the wheel of my husband's car, and he said, "What are you doing? Are you crazy?" Then he tried to convince me that the police were going to come after me because I got a ticket. I got one ticket in my whole life. And he said, if you try to drive that car, the police are going to follow you and be on your tail. So my mother tried to instill in me that I needed to be a housewife. That's all I was good for, is to be a housewife, cook, and clean. Now, these things undermine a person, and, I failed in school. The teachers thought I was retarded. They thought I was mentally incapacitated as far as, I couldn't think because my home life was such a friggin' mess that in school I dissociated. In other words, dissociation is when you're physically here, but you just blank out. Like you'd be like that. You just blank out. Like physically you can, the person is there, but mentally they're somewhere, they're not there. Mentally they're somewhere else. And I would blank out during my classes and not pay attention. And the teachers took me aside and they asked me, "What's wrong with you? Are you slow?" This is true. They had no idea what my parents were doing to me, okay? They had no idea. My parents made me feel like I couldn't do anything, that basically I was useless, And that's where, they draw on a narcissistic supply, making the person feel like codependent on them, like they can't function. Like I could not function without my mother. I couldn't survive without her. And that gave her narcissistic supply. But, that's very hard to pick up on because it's not like someone can see what, like if I came in with a black and blue, my eye black and blue, everyone can see that, if I came in, with scratches or people can see that. But that kind of abuse, that psychological abuse, where you think that, you can't even think for yourself. That kind of abuse cannot be seen. It cannot be. You can go to the nurse's office and they can check your body from head to toe and say, this girl has nothing on her body. She's not being abused. They can see a mother, who comes in and picks, first of all, my mother never even picked me up from school. Want to get that? She wasn't doing nothing. My school was about a 15-minute walk from where we lived. She wouldn't pick me up. It'd either be my grandmother or my aunt who would pick me up. She couldn't be bothered. Now, it wasn't like she was working a job. If she was working, that'd be one thing, right? Because if she's working, going out at work, and she's not there, that nothing wrong with that. But she wasn't working. She just didn't want to be bothered. Most of the time, I walked home alone. 15-minute walk by myself. And I was like, I don't know. Let's just say I was at an age that I wouldn't let my child walk home alone. And when I was younger, it was either my aunt or my grandmother who picked me up, never my mother. What does that tell you? And they both made me feel like I totally inadequate, like I couldn't do anything on my own. And a lot of times, it'll come across, my mother was vicious and mean, but sometimes it comes across as you think your mother's being nice and helpful. Now listen to this, because this is really, crafty, very crafty. You can have a parent or a boy or a boyfriend or girlfriend, it doesn't have to, whatever, right? And act like they want to help you, but they're not letting you do anything. They're acting like they want to help you, but you get the feeling that you really can't do it, Let me do this for you. Oh, here, don't bother. Let me do that. Let me do this. See, I'll drive you. You don't need to get a license. I'll drive you here, or I'll take you there. I'll do it for you. So that you cannot function. I could not function when I became an adult. But they weren't nice about it. My mother wasn't nice at all about it. But there are some narcissistic parents that come across as, and they can be not just parents, they can be spouses, they can be your lover, whatever. They come across like helpful, like they really want to help you, But deep inside, you're feeling inadequate, like you can't do anything. Because that's the whole point, see? They do everything for you, so you're dependent. It's a codependency. You need them. And this boosts their, this boosts their ego up. This boosts like, wow, the whole world. This is what the abuse Dr. Richard Geist did with his patients. And it wasn't just me. Now listen to this, because I know a lot of you on here do not like therapists. I don't like them either. But I want to show you how this covert narcissistic therapist destroyed my life. And no one else would see that. Okay? Why? Because he came across as charming, handsome, intelligent, caring, empathic. He wanted to help me. He wanted to do everything. They come across as lovable, kind, empathic, and they make you feel like you can't live without them. But you never would guess in the beginning, I never would guess that this psychologist from Harvard, Dr. Richard Geist, was narcissistic. Never! If someone said that Dr. Geist is narcissistic, I'd say, you're crazy. You're just jealous, because he wants to do everything. He has all his patients coming 5 times a week. He calls patients every night before they go to bed. See, he makes patients believe they can't live without him. Therefore, his wallet is always fat and stuffed in his pants pocket. It's always fat and stuffed, and he never has to worry about a thing. Because they're always going to pay him, and they're never going to leave. This is what he told me. His exact words are, I'm never going to retire because my patients can't live without me. I swear to God to you, that was his words. So his patients feel like they cannot function. Like my parents made me feel like I cannot function, And this is how those types of narcissistic people, it's very hard to spot them, because they come across as so helpful, so caring. They want to help you. They want it. Let me do it for you. Let me do it. Call me. You see? So in the beginning, you're thinking like, wow, what? This person is so kind. This person wants to do everything for me. You're not understanding how they're undervaluing you, right? And how inadequate they're making you feel. Like you can't function without them. You can't do anything without them. You just think they're wonderful. And then, once you're in that kind of a trap, that kind, caring mask comes right off. And now they can treat you like shit because you're hooked. You're hooked on them. You can't do anything without them. Now they don't even have to be kind to you. Do you see what I'm getting at? I was caught up in that trap with my psychologist. I'm trying to warn you people. It's not just a psychologist. It could be a lover. It could be a best friend. It could be anyone. Boyfriend, a girlfriend, whatever. Doesn't have to be a parent. It doesn't have to be a therapist. But these type of narcissistic people will make you feel helpless. You won't even trust your own ability, to even, cook yourself a meal. I'm not kidding you. Because in the beginning, they come across as they want to do everything for you. They come across as so kind and caring until you allow them to do everything, and then they got you hooked. Then they don't even have to be kind anymore. Why bother? You're hooked on them, right? They don't have to be kind. This is it. This is it, because think about it. If you really love someone, as a parent, okay? I love my children. I want them to grow up to be independent and happy. Independent. You give them roots and wings. Roots and wings. okay? I want them to be able to take care of themselves. I'm not going to live forever. I'm going to die. And I want them to be happy and self-sufficient. And how do my children become happy and self-sufficient? Well, I have a handicapped son, but my other one, how does he become self-sufficient? Because he can take care of himself. He doesn't need me or his father. He has a high-paying job. He has a good education. Okay? He doesn't, if we died tomorrow, he'd be fine. He's making a high salary, you know. He knows how to take care of himself. He knows how to cook. He cooks, you know. He does everything, you know. He can get places. He's got a great job. He doesn't need us. He's self-sufficient. That's what you want. But someone who makes you, you know, who doesn't allow you to have a life, like, you know, they don't allow you to have a social life, you know. They don't allow, they do everything. They won't allow you to drive. They won't allow you to do anything, you know. They do everything. And in the beginning, you think it's heaven, but it's really hell. That's what it is. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's really hell. All my mother wanted for me was to be a housewife and keep me upstairs. We had a 2-family house. Someone asked if I had a brother, okay? My parents had a 2-family house. We lived on the bottom floor. On the top floor was my father's half-brother, Philly, his son, Stephen, and the wicked stepmother. Stephen's mother died when he was real young of breast cancer. Now, Stephen was 8 years older than me and like a brother to me. He was like a brother because we were close in age, and we lived in the same house. He just lived in the apartment upstairs. And I thought, you know, and then my grandmother and aunts and uncles lived 2 houses over, and he was always over there too. See, the whole family was in like two houses of each other. My grandmother, my grandfather, my aunts and uncles lived 2 houses over, and my cousin Stephen lived above me with his father, my uncle Philly. And so, you know, we always in each other's lives. I saw his girlfriends. I knew all his girlfriends. The first girlfriend, Rose. I knew everything. You know, like as if he teased me. He called me shrimp. I called him punk. We were just like brother and sister. I guess I went off on a tangent there. I don't know where I was going with that. But yeah, that's, but he was like that. He grew up to be narcissistic too. Look him up. Google Stephen Palladino. Okay, Google that. Stephen, Steven, Palladino, Palladino. He's dead now, but he went to jail for the biggest Ponzi scheme. There was a TV show about him, Americans Greedy. Oh, there was some TV show, they did a documentary on him. So I'm sure that if you look that up too. But anyway, he grew up narcissistic. It's all because of, you know, how you were raised. And I was raised in that way where I was, I almost flunked out of school. I dropped out of school for 2 weeks. I almost didn't get my high school diploma. You know, and my mother gave me a bottle of wine, and I got drunk and passed out, and the principal called, and I had to go home drunk. I mean, this is my mother allowing me to drink a whole bottle of wine when I was 16 years old. And I wasn't going to school anymore, and she was fine with that. I stayed home in my room. I almost didn't get my high school diploma, okay? Do you see what kind of covert narcissist she was? And I just wanted to come on here. I wanted to do this video because I wanted to make people aware that certain narcissists can act like, empaths. They can act like all they want to do is take care of you. And so I'm trying to give you that warning to watch out if someone wants to do everything for you. Watch out. You may think they're wonderful, but when the mask comes off and they no longer need, need to be nice because you're hooked, then you end up feeling you can't do anything for yourself. That's what you really have to watch out for. They undervalue you at every turn, and you might not even be aware of it at first, You might not even be aware of it, but it's there. It's sneaky. They're crafty, They need to do that because they need to feel like everyone needs them. No one can function without them. Like they're the best thing in the world, And it has messed up my life. I went to therapy and then I got re-traumatized from a narcissistic parent to a narcissistic psychologist who re-traumatized me. Made me sit in his lap, grab his manhood. He made me feel like I was a little girl. He regressed me, this psychologist. He made me feel like an infantile. That's what it is, infantile. He was narcissistic, and he made me feel like an infant, like I couldn't do anything, function without him, I got a complaint to the board out, and it's under investigation. It's been a year now,